Welcome to PFPod, the podcast where we break down the action, strategy, and excitement of robotics competitions like FIRST and beyond.
From last-minute pick fixes and championship-winning plays, we're here to talk about what makes robotics more than just a competition. Whether you're a builder, coder, driver, or just love the energy of a great event, we've got stories, insights, and maybe a few battle scars to share.
So let's gear up, dive in, and talk about the world of competitive robotics. Hi, everybody. Today we're back. It's me, Sam, PF Prez.
And I'm Max.
Future PF Prez.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. We're going to be ranking FRC games today. You'll see on the screen here, I don't know how they're editing it yet, but once they do, somehow on the screen here, you're going to see a list of all the FRC games from 2002 to present, including this year's season game, Reefscape. And then, Max, what are we going to do today?
And we're going to go ahead and rank these into a little tier list we have here. And if you're just listening to the audio version, we'll rank them through S through D. Games starting at Zone Zeal up to this past year at Reefscape.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and put a disclaimer here. So I started FRC in 2018 with Power Up, and I did one competition, like off-season with Steamworks. And then Max started the year after I did. So take our ranking with a grain of salt.
Very fair. Our past game knowledge is a little bit theoretical.
Yeah, I look at that and go, wow, that looks like it would have been fun to play. And if I was actually playing it, I probably would have hated it. So shout out Lunacy, because we'll get to that when we get to that game.
Let's get started. We're going to start off with Zone Zeal. And Sam, can you give us a little bit of a description of what that game is?
Yeah, so Zone Zeal is a soccer ball based game. I'm pretty sure this is one of the games where we talked about destruction of the field, because you had to shoot soccer balls into these different goals and then pull the goals to be in your zone. And if this is the game I'm thinking of, robots would like dig into the field and pull the goals with them. That might be a later game. But basically, soccer balls into goals, you have to pull those goals to your side of the field. It's 2v2, not a 3v3 as we know today. Seems like a pretty interesting game. I don't know. What about you, Max?
Seems kind of
Yeah,
middle tier, C-ish.
I also would give C here. I think there's just a lot of games that have very similar gameplay, and I would rather play the other ones.
All right, is what it is.
Okay, that means our next one is Stack Attack.
Stack Attack. So that game has a bunch of different packing totes that teams have to collect and score into their zone. I also think that's kind of
mid. I look at the old games, and there's some of them we're going to get to that I'm like, this looks boring. And I love FIRST. I love FRC. I love this program. But sometimes I look at these games, and I'm like, wow, grateful for the complex operation we have today.
I don't know. There's a couple of the older ones that we're going to come up to next that I think are kind of
I like First Frenzy. I think First Frenzy will go high. But I think Stack Attack, honestly, D tier.
D. I mean, yeah, that's chill.
Sorry, Stack Attack.
Next, we have First Frenzy, as you spoke that into existence.
I think this game is super interesting because there's a lot of human player involvement here, like that or don't like that. But there's different goals that you have to score balls into. But the balls you actually put into a little container on the side of the field, and the human player shoots them. And I think the robots can place them as well. And then there's also score multiplier balls that if you score them into a specific goal, it multiplies the entire goal by a certain multiplier. So there's a 2 times 1, depending on how many balls you score in the 2 times goal, you get 2 times the amount of points. I also think this is the first time I'm seeing a really high climb for the robots in one of these games, and I think that's pretty cool too. I think this game's pretty interesting. What about you, Max?
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a B, maybe even sneak into A vibe. I think there's a bunch of good games kind of coming along, so yeah, I'll throw it into B for now.
I feel like First Frenzy, with like the shooting and the climbing elements, I think it was the gateway to a lot of cooler games down the line.
For sure. I like the double your points when you stick that big yellow ball in the top of the goal.
Yeah.
All right, so next we have Triple Play. This game has these triangular pyramid pipe game piece situations that appear to be stacked on top of each other. So it's kind of fun, but also kind of maybe a little C vibe. I don't know what you're thinking.
I'll go C vibe here. Again, Max and I don't have like the most insane knowledge of these games. So we're like looking at pictures and they're like, I don't really know what's happening, but this looks C-ish. So
okay. This next one we have here is Aim High.
This one I I think I would be anti-aim high. It looks like you're literally just shooting balls into a singular hoop at the end of the field. I think you can shoot them into like a ramp that goes to the human player too. I don't know. It doesn't look that fun. The field is very empty. I would think this game is boring, especially as an MC game announcer.
They have to aim so high to get into that goal.
I think
Great aim, by the way, because they're really aiming high. Look how high that thing is. They're aiming so high.
Can we put a picture? Aim high, right here. Here's the goal.
They're aiming so high.
Thanks, Lydia. I don't like it.
No, I think it's D.
I think it's D, easily. I think it's going to be the lowest D because it looks boring. Do better than aim high. Okay.
All right, next we have Rack and Roll, which is a game with these inflatable tubes that have to be placed on a rack, kind of actually similar to this year's Reefscape.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting with the rack in the middle.
I'm a sucker for an inflatable, so
Me
I
too.
think maybe a little C vibe.
A little C vibe. I think Reefscape did it better. You know what I mean? Like, I look at this year's game and I'm like, it's Rack and Roll, but...
I like how there's only one rack here. Curious to see how that kind of played out in real life, but could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think, again, I look at these games and they look like simpler versions of current games, so I'm like, not as... But I think some of them are really cool, but I think Overdrive starts the trend of, like, the field getting a little more full, a little bit more interesting, so I'm excited to see as our rankings move on to
And if you guys are disappointed in our
those.
lack of insight, don't you fret, because shortly we're going to get much into our real house.
I think the stronghold onwards is going to be lots of
A little bit
conversation.
more knowledge of what's actually going on.
Yeah. Okay. First, Overdrive. As somebody from Indiana, I think that this is a really cool game concept with the sort of racing vibes. Also, I think this is the first time where we see human players, like, not human players, the robots having to mess with super, super large game pieces, which I think is quite cool. Unfortunately, like, there are only 4 balls on the field, so I think that is a little bit interesting. And learning, like, just, it seems more about the driving than about the game object placement. I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool concept. But I don't know if it would be, like, my favorite game of all time. I don't know. What do you think, Max?
I like a good big ball game. It's
That's
so
fair.
Big,
I think that's fair.
and big is cool.
So true. Love a big ball, I guess.
Look how big that ball is.
Like,
It's a big ball. Like,
it's pretty, yeah.
it's like...
That's a big
It's
ball.
like 5 of these balls. Boom, 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 boom.
And because of that, I think first Overdrive for that conversation alone. I think top of C tier. Top of C, yeah. Fair. Okay, or do you think we should go ahead and put it in low B tier?
I think it's kind of fun. I think maybe slip it into the bottom of B.
I think it's a cool theme, so I like it. Okay, low B. And now we move on to, I think, a controversial game in the first community. Max, want to talk about Lunacy?
Lunacy. I actually was not familiar with this game before today, but it appears the field has a little different bit of a playing surface that requires some unique wheels and drivetrain situations. But also, my biggest thing that I enjoy is the scoring in the trailers on the opposing alliance's robot. I think that's a great time. I think that's fun. I think having a trailer really just like brightens things up. I think we should bring that back for next year, honestly. And I'm saying this goes in A tier, Sam.
I think this is A. I think watching this game, this sounds like, again, this goes back to the point that I said at the beginning of if I were to be a student playing Lunacy and having to deal with stupid wheels that I've never used before on a weird surface that's not been used before and having to attach a trailer to my robot, I would probably hate this game. But I look back at the game animation and I look back at the matches and I go, that looks really fun. So, sorry for putting that in A. I think that's going to make a lot of people mad, but I'm agreeing with him here. So,
Next we have Breakaway.
Breakaway. Okay, so this is one that is soccer based. It looks like a little bit more like of a... the field's green, got some turfy vibes. The goal is to score soccer balls into a goal. It's fairly simple. I think the cool thing of like having to get the soccer balls over the middle obstacle is interesting, and like having that climb mechanism part of it too. I think it's a cool game. Robots are really high off the ground. I think that's a cool part of it as well, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Max?
It looks like that's also relatively compact if to drive under that bar thing.
Yeah, it seems like you have to drive under it or drive over.
And I think I like a good compact robot, kind of similar to Stronghold vibes.
Yeah.
But I think we could throw this maybe top of C.
I think top of C as well. I
About
agree.
a good spot for it.
Thanks.
And next we have Logo Motion. And this is at least where I start kind of having known these games for doing like old catathons when I was in high school and like kind of different past game analysis. So this is kind of more in knowing before today.
I also feel like Logo Motion is an iconic game just because the game pieces alone, like I feel like the first Logo inflatables are very iconic.
Yeah, so that kind of segues. This game has game pieces that are the different shapes in the first Logo inflatables, and you have to place them on different little pegs to create the logo. I think that's cool. Definitely good branding for First. They probably love those pictures they took. But I think maybe C, kind of We could throw in a B if you really like it.
I think above Breakaway, like I think a high C again. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for it.
Below Breakaway, you said? Or above?
Below Breakaway is fine.
Okay.
I think they're kind of interchangeable.
I'm like, yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't really care about that one. Okay.
Anyways.
Again, now we're getting into the more fun themed games. With Rebound Rumble, again, as an Indiana person, cool to have a basketball game. We did talk recently to Colin Foltz, who is the program director of First Robotics Competition, and he said that this is his favorite game because he would just go out into the first field that they had built and shoot basketballs just for fun. And I think that makes this game really cool. Looking at the field here, each alliance has 4 different hoops at varying heights that they can shoot balls into. I think this game looks really fun. I think it's probably super fun to watch. The setup's cool. I think again we're getting into the era of like cool game theming with this. I don't know, your thoughts?
I think these also have the potential to be great outreach robots. Being able to shoot into a basketball hoop ball is a good time. I think this is B for me, Sam.
I think top of B. I think like right under. Yep. No.
Ian is fumbling
Yeah,
the keyboard.
we're not doing the tier list. It's our cameraman Ian.
And he's doing a really bad job.
I was not going to say that. Ian,
Boo.
you're doing wonderful.
Boo, Ian.
Okay, let's move on. Our next game is Ultimate Ascent.
And I'm actually quite familiar with Ultimate Ascent, as we actually designed an Ultimate Ascent robot over COVID over the summer with a little catathon I hosted for my mechanical sub team. I think it's a really fun game. I like the climb up to the pyramid situation. I like being able to shoot the frisbee kind of in a regular game piece. I think this is an A for me, Sam.
I like Ultimate Ascent. I think this is a fun one. I do like the climbing at the end with the pyramid. I like, I think the frisbees are a fun game piece. I hope they bring that back sometime soon eventually. I've been hoping for a frisbee game for a long time. I think Ultimate Ascent is A tier easily.
This was definitely a good stretch of games, I think.
Yeah, I think
very unique in terms of game piece, very unique in terms of climbing.
Okay, Aerial Assist. I think this is another cool game. We've got the big balls back, the ones that we had from Overdrive. They make a return in Aerial Assist. We have a lot of friends who are big fans of big game pieces. I low-key kind of agree with them. I think Aerial Assist is a pretty fun, just looking at the robots and their cool design. I just know a lot of people really enjoyed this game, and looking back at matches, I can kind of see why.
Yeah, I definitely think it takes a step up over Overdrive, being able to hold multiple balls at once. I remember seeing pictures of the Cheesy Poofs robot holding all 3,
Yep.
And that's always kind of fun because it's like more ball than robot.
Yeah, and just like them shooting into that upper, it's just a fun game. I think the defense was really cool. Looking at matches, I just think it's a fun game. So
I think the question is, does this make S tier, or are we throwing it into A?
I think it makes S tier. I feel like it's an Aerial Assist. Like when I'm thinking iconic first games, I think Aerial Assist just like makes that mark. I don't know.
Fair. And next we have Recycle Rush, which is a silly little game. You have
another iconic one, but maybe for not as good of a reason.
You got these little totes you have to stack, and then you can throw a trash can on top of the totes, and there's also like a pool noodle that like the human player throws into it. I don't know, kind of interesting. This is actually a great year for my team. They made Worlds for the first time. Really fun for them, but definitely pre-max. It looks okay. kind of seems like notoriously not great, but I think it's kind of silly, goofy looking at it just from afar.
Yeah, again, I think this falls into a similar boat of lunacy, where it's like I look at pictures from this game and I'm like, haha, that's so funny, and I think to actually play this game would be horrible. I see some pictures of some matches at the end. I don't know if you've ever seen the Recycle Rush pictures of people like flipping out because at the end of a match their stack falls over. This one's a fun one.
I like how stall the tax.
How tall the stacks.
I like how tall the stacks can get. I think that's really cool and
Me too.
unique. But it can't go that high.
I feel like B.
I think B is way too high.
C. I think it's top of C then.
I think we could throw it in C. But yeah, I think B is ridiculous.
Okay. Sorry, Recycle Rush fans.
I think there aren't any. That's why.
Is it a D tier game?
No, I think it's fun. I think it's I think most people would say D, but I just think it's silly, goofy, and that gives it a bump up for me.
So now we're getting into the lane of games that Max and I know pretty well / have played before. So first Stronghold, S tier game for me. I don't know about Max. I think this game is so cool. The way the field would change every single game, the turrets that you'd shoot into, the being able to get through the obstacles, the counting in Auton. My mentor on my team on 3176, we have some fun stories of like him being drive coach during this game. I think this is just a fun one all around. The theming, the team theming. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I definitely agree. I also think the climb really fun and unique as well. So
Yeah.
I definitely think S tier for me.
S tier for Stronghold. I love First Stronghold. I think it is the one I think I'm most bummed I didn't get to play as a student.
And next we shift into Steamworks, which is another really fun game.
Yes.
This really took the human players onto the field, which is fun. Love that. There's the big wiffle ball size softballs that you have to shoot into the cylinders.
It was like a generator or something, and then there was the gears.
The gears. And then also endgame you have to climb up a rope. But you can make your own situation. So a lot of teams like either use their own chain or Velcro or different things. I think that was a cool strategy. You get to add your own element to the field.
I thought that was cool too. I do know from like a field build perspective, these field builds took like upwards of 12 to 14 hours. Like events would get delayed because of how long this field took to build, from what I understand.
Well, that's unfortunate for those people. But from someone who was not there, it looks great. I'm throwing it in A.
An A? I think it's an A game. I think the gear game piece, like just the different, not standard ball or whatever, I think that is a really cool component. And again, I think the theming is awesome. So now we're getting into I think this is my favorite game, Power Up. I think the simplicity of this game is what makes it so wonderful. You have one game piece. It's the yellow power-up cubes. They were literally crates that can be used as crates that then had a yellow covering over it that you then put into seesaws that you had to control depending on your alliance. So you had the switches, and then you had the scale, and then you had to climb on the scale in the end game. Can you tell we're getting into the games that I actually played, because I actually know the names of stuff now. But I loved Power Up.
Theming was immaculate.
Yes.
I do fear, just looking at the board right now, we're going to get a little top heavy here, and I think we'll have to do a little rearrange at the end to even things out. But for now, where do you want to put that, Sam?
Is it bad if I say S again? I just love Power Up. I think it's such a fun game. I think the simplicity of it is what makes it so fun. It was fun to watch. The scores were always fun. Just like I think the cool thing about Power Up is it wasn't like each item that you scored was points. It was, are you in control?
Yeah, the timing-based scoring is definitely cool. This was the first off-season competition that I went to, so this was my first time ever seeing a first event. So it was definitely a great introduction. And moving on to that will be Deep Space, which was my freshman year. First time I actually had a full season to build a robot. And I think it was pretty solid. I mean, definitely biased. I think it was my favorite game that I participated in.
This is gonna sound bad. I also think Deep Space is S tier. I think this game is. I don't think any of the other ones are S tier moving forward. I really think Power Up and Deep Space were like prime FRC games. Again, like with the obscure shaped game pieces, like the hatch panels, and then the kickballs. The climb was so interesting by flipping onto the oh, it's over here. speaking of the devil, Deep Space Hatch panel. You want to talk about it?
Super fun. Lots of different fun intake mechanisms. You got suction. You have little grabbers that go
We
on the
did
inside.
like a crossbow mechanism
Yeah,
where
we
you
did
flip
something
in.
similar. We had something go in and go out. And
Yeah.
then like hold it like this. But definitely really fun. We didn't, I guess, actually describe the game at all. But there's like a cargo ship and some rockets. You have to stick these hatch panels on, and then you can stick a ball that was called something cargo. Maybe.
Hatch and some cargo, yeah.
And then you gotta put those kind of kickballs into those things. And at the end game, really fun as well with the hab climbing up to the different steps. Lots of different fun creative solutions there.
I thought this one was so fun too because the way your hatch mechanism, like, and getting the hatches to stay on securely was key to being able to get any points, because your hatch scoring, like, you couldn't score cargo unless you successfully scored hatches, and I think that that's a cool component as well.
It also definitely made strategy really fun when selecting alliances in terms of, so you get a robot that only does hatches really well, and then you can cycle in the cargo afterwards, or kind of how you go about actually operating a match, especially in eliminations. But I think this was actually my favorite game. I'm definitely biased because I've only participated in like 3, but COVID, brutal. But anyways,
S tier.
Sure, we'll start up there. And next we have Infinite Recharge,
which was truly infinite recharge because you had to play it twice. Yeah, you had to play. I mean, I played this game my junior and my senior year. I'm taking this off.
No,
I had to play.
Okay.
I had to play it my junior and my senior year, so I think that.
Anyways,
I wonder why I wanted to take it off.
I low-key think Infinite Recharge was not great. I think the climb was fine.
The climb was cool.
The balls were I low-key think maybe D or C. I did not love it. Maybe we didn't really get to see it fully play out. But I know the first competition and only we went to was low-key kind of Scoring was limited. Climbing was fun. I smashed my finger in our climbing mechanism. So that was kind of a little bit negative connotation on things. But
I think, again, I like the climb on Infinite Recharge with the hanger.
I think it's a C.
I think the climb pulls it up. I think the ball scoring was boring. And yeah, we played it so much because of COVID, and I think I just got sick of it.
Yeah, definitely some bias there, but I definitely think C. Ian, I definitely think it's C.
You think it's C?
I think it's C, guys.
It's a good spot.
Now, Rapid React. This was my senior year of high school, so definitely very familiar and personal to me. This, you have the large tennis balls they have to score in a high and low goal, and then a super fine, elevated, angled monkey bar climb at endgame. I'm curious what your take on it, Sam, not actually participating in the game.
Yeah, so this was my first year where I did volunteering instead of actually competing in the event. I thought the climb mechanism on this one was pretty cool. I think the monkey bars was an interesting, the way that you couldn't get to the third monkey bar unless you kind of like climbed up over them. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked the scoring with everybody scoring into the, I guess, I totally thought there were 2, but there's only one of everybody scoring into the same thing. And I forget, there were ways that you could multiply the score, right? Where like blue would get specific like increases to scores depending. Never mind.
I don't think so. Maybe I was not playing the game right, but I do not believe that's the case. But human players do get a shoot in autonomous. So early competitions, I was my team's human player. Really loved that. Super fun.
That doesn't shock me at all, actually. I think this is a fun one. I don't think it's as good as Deep Space or Power Up. I think I might put it in B.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. Again, definitely biased having actually participated in it and like spent that many hours kind of playing with it. But I thought it was a good time. And next we kind of transition into Charged Up, which is
I'm going to be honest. I don't like Charged Up.
Yeah, I think it's very repeatable, which is like having the same cycle over and over again with the cones and the fun purple inflatable cubes. Don't know the names of either, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys. But I think it's all right. I don't know if we throw it as a D, but definitely I think a C for me. I think
the charge station was cool at the end where you had to like balance.
I actually disagree. I think it was way too easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a quick, easy end game, which I think having a little bit more time consuming and complicated end game definitely makes it a little bit more fun instead of being able to cycle the entire map.
Fair. I think also, I guess I'm kind of biased in this opinion, but as a game announcer, this one was really boring to game announce. Like, I just, you'd be like, and now they've scored a cone and another cube. And there was no defense. It was very much like all strategy of how you scored on your side of the field. And so I kind of agree back. I think it was boring to watch. I think the end game was too easy. The game pieces were cool, I guess. And like the strategy of scoring on your side of the field was interesting. And I think it was interesting for the kids. But I think in terms of like an overall game, I don't love it.
Yeah, I also think capping the score, like teams would, towards the end of the season, were definitely getting pretty close to filling those grids up. So I think...
Is it a D?
See, that's what I was thinking, but I feel like that's kind of heinous, but low-key.
I'm not a fan.
All right,
Okay.
Next we have Crescendo. Which I thought was a pretty solid game.
I love Crescendo.
Game pieces were these super fun foam rings. Lots of fun ring toss potential there.
Yeah. I know that this game, as a game announcer MC, I loved this one. I think the whole arts theme of last year was super cool. I think harmonizing on the stage with the spotlights, the human players with the notes, the subwoofer, the speaker, like the terminology was just fun in this one. I know it's really niche opinion, but I think that it brings back the Frisbee-esque vibes of
No, for sure.
Ultimate Ascent, but I think a cool climb.
I think the climb was alright. Wasn't too challenging, I think, which I think having like a difficult end game makes it harder to maximize cycle time. But I think it's alright. I think it was a solid game, but nothing too crazy.
I will say, something that I think pulls Crescendo's end game ahead, the trap. Where the robots, like, once they climbed, if they got it in the...
Yeah, that definitely was an improvement. I think we can throw it either end of B towards top of C. I don't know where you're thinking.
I would put it higher, just for me. Can we do mid B?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, and last but not least...
Reefscape.
Which is this year's game. We haven't quite finished the season, so we don't know exactly how it's going to play out at the highest level. But I think it's been pretty fun, Sam.
I think for a water game, this is a fun one. I think the two different game pieces, the algae and the coral, I think you run into a similar issue with Reefscape that you do with Charged Up, where I think towards the end of the season, we're seeing teams filling the reef super quickly. And then we're running out of like game pieces and places for them to score. I think you run into that when you have like that limited scoring system. I do think that algae and the coral pieces are interesting though.
Again, slightly above the average size ball, which is always fun. Big balls are fun balls.
Okay. I think the thing that's really cool here is also the barge. I think as we've gone deeper into the season, we see that the like algae being an important scoring element over the coral. I'm excited to see how this one plays out.
I also really like the climbing. I think it's pretty unique. We haven't seen anything like that in a decent while. I think the cage climbing is really cool. I think it's cool that you can set it at different heights. I think a lot of robots have their mechanism in the middle of their robot, and I think that's sick too. Definitely pretty neat. So that leads to...
I think it's B.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking.
Like, I think just under Rebound Rumble, yeah.
All right. So now that we're looking back at our tier list, Sam, is there anything you think we should adjust or change?
Honestly...
I kind of hate how we have so many top S tier ones. Don't get me wrong, I think they're all great games, but from just like a ranking standpoint, we can't have 4 that high.
Something's got to go down. Is it going to be Power Up? Am I going to be sad?
I don't know. Like, because you definitely can tell what era we like the best.
Yeah, there's that like mid-2010s era was peak, in my opinion.
Honestly, I think we could just leave it. It's our list. We get us to make a say. Who else?
What a 180. But yes, I agree.
Anyways,
I would move Rebound Rumble up to A. I think in comparison to everything else.
I agree. I like a good basket. I like the real life game piece that you can get elsewhere. I think that adds a fun little down to earth vibe of the game. Much easier to kind of explain to the layman. Just like, oh, we shoot basketballs.
Yeah.
Very easy, very fun, very cool. All right, Sam. I think this was a great time, and all right. So I think that's our tier list then.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with it. Looking at these, lots of fun memories with a lot of these games. So cool to see them.
Yeah, definitely cool kind of learning about some of the older games as well today. Well, now we'll kind of transition into our PF plug, where you get to hear a bunch of fun things we have going on in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah. Take it away, Sam.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the PF Plug. The school year has reached an end, but it's never too early to show your interest for 2025 Indiana statewide FIRST Forums. Purdue FIRST Forums is expanding this year to multiple locations over multiple weekends. Forums is a day-long event where teams are able to attend several sessions from guest speakers on a variety of topics, including technical skills, team management, judging preparation, and much more. Please find the link in our description or our link tree. Now, back to the pod.
All right, now we're back. Thanks for listening, guys. And I guess it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, make sure to send in stories to the PF portal in our link tree in the forum in the comments below. What do you want to see from us in the future? We know this was more of a fun episode, but if you guys want to see some more of these, some more Q&As, just let us know. Let's go ahead and kick it out. All right, Max. So PF parting is such sweet sorrow.
See y'all next week.
See y'all next week.